So, therapy, eh? Let's talk about that for a bit. More specifically, let's talk about why I started therapy, how I sort of got into it, how I found it going forward, and how it led to my autism diagnosis. So, I guess I've wanted to do therapy. Well, I had wanted to do therapy for years. After I quit drinking, that was the big thing, because I had this weird thing when I quit drinking, where you hear about addiction, and a lot of people get addicted to things because of trauma, childhood trauma a lot of the time, parents splitting up, abuse, that kind of thing. I never had anything like that. I had a really, really good upbringing, and it was always a bit of a mystery to me as to why I developed an alcohol problem. So I'd sort of always thought, I think it'd be really great to go to therapy and talk about it and just see if there's something there that I haven't been able to figure out on my own. But I never went through with it. I guess it was scary, and I wasn't really experiencing any issues that meant that I needed to go, right? And I had nothing I needed to fix. It was more of a curiosity thing, like, wouldn't that be great? And then, so I spent a couple of years just thinking about that, but never really acting on it. Then met my girlfriend, got in a relationship, everything was great for a year or so, and then started having some issues, communication barriers, me shutting down a lot, her getting very, very frustrated with me, and there was a bit of not a very nice dynamic. So she actually suggested, why don't we go and see a couples therapist? And I was completely open to the idea. I thought, yeah, okay, why not? At this point, she had got an ADHD diagnosis, so that was done. We knew about that. We sort of suspected there might be autism, but it was, I don't know how seriously it was taken. It wasn't taken that seriously by me. It was just sort of, oh yeah, maybe, and found some resources that I resonated with and thought, oh yeah, kind of. But there was such a massive imposter syndrome where I thought, no, I can't have autism. Like, I don't seem like the sort of person that would. Is really weird, but I wasn't dismissive of it. I didn't see it as a bad thing. So I was open to it. Anyway, so my girlfriend had done years of therapy on and off for different things. So she was sort of familiar with the process. She kind of knew what to expect. I didn't, and it was very, very scary. I don't think I was excited, and I wasn't worried about having to talk about things. I feel like I can articulate things quite well. I can explain my experiences to a reasonable degree, but I think I was just really scared of saying it out loud to another person, because I've spent all of my life not communicating at all. Everything that I sort of think and feel, I've internalized and just thought about. It's just a real in-depth analysis. So actually saying these things out loud, like telling someone else that I'm I had an alcohol problem, it was very weird. So excuse me. So we found a therapist who has awareness in neurodivergence, and went to go and see them, and it was good. And the way they worked was, we have a couple session, and then we each have an individual session, then we have another couple session, and it very sort of quickly emerged that my girlfriend was fine. She didn't really need need too much. I think it was really good for the therapist to see her point of view, but ultimately it was what's wrong with me? Why can't I understand the basics? I should be able to do this, but I'm not. So we did disclose, there might be autism, but I don't have a diagnosis, and I don't really want to be someone who self-diagnoses, and but however, there are traits there, so we can use those traits as a framework, and it might help. And then things just sort of, I continued to go on my own, and it was very expensive. I didn't really have the money, but it was just, it felt so necessary at the time. And I would sort of make these cognitive breakthroughs where I would learn something and go, oh yeah, amazing, like that's really good, that makes sense. And then in that situation, there would be, as soon as I got emotional and couldn't emotionally regulate, the cognitive stuff just goes out the window. So I wasn't really making a lot of progress. It didn't feel like in the real world. It was like I could intellectualize all the information and I completely understood everything. But if someone else was the subject, I'd be able to help them, and it'd be quite easy. But because I was the subject and I didn't know how to emotionally regulate, it was really, it was really hard to feel like I was actually getting anywhere, making any progress. So I ended up looking for another therapist, and this wasn't because my other therapist was bad. I just wanted a different opinion. I just wanted a different viewpoint, because I was so intrigued about learning about myself. And I reached out to them and said, possible ASD. So again, we can use those traits as a framework. And that was quite good. So a similar thing. And I was sort of seeing two different therapists in parallel. And it's sort of two very different styles, and it was great. Like one of them, the second one was a bit more like, oh well, what happened? Oh, how did you feel? Oh, that's interesting. Well, that could have been because of this, and you go, oh yeah, okay. Whereas the other one was a lot more philosophical, I think. So they would, I think they knew there was definitely possible autism there, and they would constantly reference studies and things like this and say, oh well, there was a study done that showed this, and I was like, oh brilliant, yeah, tell me more, this is great, just give me the facts. Rather than the sort of, oh, this is an emotion and this is how it feels. It was a bit more practical. So yeah, very good, and I actually still see both of them. I don't go as much anymore. I go about once a month, which is fine because everything is quite stable, but there are still plenty of things that I am trying to understand about myself. But anyway, so it sort of, the reason I ended up wanting to go for a diagnosis was because I got really, things got really bad and I got really down, and it was like I got a second therapist, felt like I wasn't making any progress, and I thought, right, I'm just gonna go for apply for diagnosis, go through the right to choose, and I'll do a separate video on all of that because that's a good story in itself. And it sort of went quiet for a bit, about 6 months. Everything sort of started to get better. I started to make progress in therapy, and I said to both of them, I'm thinking about going for a diagnosis, and neither of them were sort of pushy with it, but they weren't dismissive either. And it was, I think it was good because they were impartial, so they weren't saying, oh, no, I don't think you've got autism, so you shouldn't do that. But none of them said, yeah, I definitely think that's a great idea. Like, 100% you've got autism, you'll get diagnosed. So they didn't say either, which I think professionally is the right thing to do. But it left me in a weird place, sort of thinking, well, do you think I should or not? Do you think I have it? And it was you know, the feeling what they kind of said to me was, it doesn't really matter whether you have it or not, but going for a diagnosis will always teach you a lot more about yourself, and it's always worth doing, always. And they just think the more you understand about yourself, the better. So, you know, absolutely. And yeah, you definitely display traits of it. So you could get a diagnosis, but they could say, you know, yeah, you've got traits, but you don't quite meet the criteria. So, but either way, it doesn't really matter, because you're still you at the end of it. So, you know, just sort of kind of go for it. So I did, and yeah, got the diagnosis, and obviously talking to them all the way through it, throughout the kind of waiting, and yeah, and afterwards. I mean, I definitely want to do a video about this, but the feeling after the diagnosis was so intense for me, which again, you know, therapy, yeah, go to therapy and talk about it. So yeah, it's been, and I can't believe it's been 2 years. I cannot believe it's been 2 years since I've been seeing, you know, the first therapist at least. But it has, and there's just been so many things, like at work, right? I love my job, but I get frustrated at work with other people all the time. And I know for a fact there can be a conflict or something, and the other person will just finish work and go home and just live their life. And I'm ruminating on things for weeks, and I think there's going to end up being some argument. And then I talk to this person, and they just don't care. You know, it's like it's not a big deal to them. And I'm sat here thinking, what do you mean it's not a big deal? This was a massive deal, and it's all made up in my head. So being able to go and talk to a therapist about situations like that has just been so helpful, and it just really helps me to clear my head after I've finished work, so that when I go home and spend time with my girlfriend, I'm actually present somewhat anyway. Yeah, so that's sort of that's kind of the story for me. And I think if there's anything specifically about therapy that you're interested in knowing about my experience, let me know, and I'll delve into it. But I guess, so something else, you know, if anyone was, to me, I think therapy is normal. I feel, I just don't, and there's a lot of shame, it seems, around it, but I just feel like it's a normal thing, in the same way that you would book a personal trainer if you want to get in shape. Like, yeah, you can kind of muddle your way through and try and figure it out, but you could just pay someone to show you exactly what to do and get it right. So you know, society seems to have no problem having a transactional relationship for other things. You know, you wouldn't sort of get a bad back and say, oh, I'm not going to go and see a physio because, you know, this is my back, right? So I should know the most about my back, not the person who's trained for years and is an expert in everyone's back, but, you know, it should be me that knows everything about it. It's just nonsense. Like, you know, people train for years, decades, to understand the brain, the human brain, and how it works. And most people just muddle through life, not even understanding what emotions are and how to interpret them, and how to, you know, just with such a lack of self-awareness. And yet we think we should be the experts of our own brain. It doesn't make sense to me. So I'm more than happy to go and pay someone who I know is an expert to kind of tell me things about my brain, because a lot of things are just an absolute mystery to me. And I spent most of my adult life so far drinking alcohol, so I've not learned to process anything properly, and so that was another thing when, you know, I started therapy, actually, was, yeah, processing emotions that I'd just never done. You know, I just shut everything out and just drank all the time. So I was I was like a hormonal teenage girl. I had all these emotions, and I was probably worse actually, because I suppose they kind of do understand what they're going through, I imagine. I didn't, so yeah, I'd recommend it, I think, to anyone. I think everyone can benefit from therapy. It's not a bad thing. It's not a weird thing. So yeah, if you're watching this and you're thinking, oh, therapy might be good, I don't know, it's a bit scary. Yeah, it is scary, but it's not scary forever. And yeah, it can really help. I mean, it's improved my relationship massively. It's helped me understand why I started drinking in the first place. It's helped me understand my behaviours. It's helped me communicate better. And yeah, ultimately it led to me going and getting a diagnosis. So yeah, go do therapy. Therapy's great. Love it. Love therapy. Oh, I think I need to go right now.